Hey family, it's me again. This is Thursday, but you're going to be seeing this video on Friday. I got a mother-in-law is coming in, and my husband's auntie is coming in. And so we are going to be doing a lot of our videos back to back to back. So you're going to see me in like the same outfits, maybe same coffee cup, right? Because I'm going to just be doing stuff back to back to back and get all my videos recorded ahead of time for next week. So bear with me when you're like, what's going on with her videos? She normally does her stuff the same day. I'm going to be pre-recording a lot of this stuff that you're going to see for the rest of this week and next week. So let's get into it. Today, I want to give you 7 must-watch shows that I think there's something to be learned. First of all, I think that when you are a family that prepares, you're a family that, you know, is striving towards homesteading, being self-sufficient, being self-reliant, all of that stuff, that there's something to be learned from all types of shows, movies, even books, obviously. Fictional type books. There's something to be learned from all of that stuff. And so over the years, I've shared different videos here and there, like this is a must watch, you must watch this, or you must read this, or hey, I watched a new show, or hey, here's my top books, or here's my top shows, or whatever. I've done these videos before, but it's been a while, and I kind of want to just give you a new list. This is a list of 7 shows. I think they're all, shows, movies, and why there's something to be learned from them. And some of the stuff you might be like, what? Why is that on there? Well, I'm going to explain why. Okay, so let's get into it without further ado. My first one is Naked and Afraid. I just mentioned this, right? And in this case, I just mentioned this a few minutes ago on my video from Thursday, from yesterday. And because I'm such a fan of it. So Naked and Afraid, obviously it's kind of just a fun show, right? People are naked, they're trying to survive for 21 days with a partner, right? It's like, haha, funny, you know, they're naked and they're trying to survive. Well, if you strip that away, no pun intended, there's so much to learn. You learn about the dynamic of working with somebody, right? Working with another person, working with a stranger. You get that dynamic of strife and struggle and the hardship and the stress that puts on those people. And then the dynamic of them trying to get along. You get, oh, wow. That's a big cat, you guys. I just saw a cat in my backyard that came up, but it's big, but it's a domestic cat, but it's big. I almost was thinking it was something else because it's that big. Okay, so I digress. Naked and Afraid. You strip that away, you know, and you have this dynamic of these people trying to survive. Yes, they're naked, but it's hardcore. They have no food, they have no shelter, they have no, you know, fire and all this stuff. And they need these basics, but they have to work together. And everybody naturally is going to have a different opinion of what's important, what's priority, how to survive, a way of surviving. Everybody's different. And so it's a great show to watch the dynamic of that, okay? And how hard it is to build a shelter and to, you know, and the importance of doing things. And if that you don't do things, there's consequences, right? Like when people go on the show and they don't make priority of a shelter, right? Or they just throw something up and then it pours for the next, you know, 10 days, right? And what that does for morale and the importance of morale and all of that stuff. So there's a lot to be learned in this show, right? Procuring food, how hard it is, the different things that they've made, different traps that they've made. Maybe they bring an item that's a hunting item. Maybe it's luck. Watching somebody have to procure food and how hard it was to do that and the things that they had to do to actually get the food. That's hardcore, right? When you talk about survival and what somebody has to do to actually get food, get water, all of that good stuff. So there's a lot to be learned in that show, even though it's kind of just like a fun type show, right? Oh, they're naked, right? And they have those single shows, and then they have spin-off shows with fans. So you get to see somebody who's not a survivalist try to do it. You see spin-off shows for Naked and Afraid with it's a group. So that's good too, because you get to see a group dynamic, you know, all the drama that comes with that, the power, again, that whole thing where you have people who are like for themselves, but then you have people who are for team and you're trying to survive, and that whole dynamic and what that does to the group when you guys can't get on the same page. Number 2 thing is the show Alone. This is hardcore because this is a show where people are truly alone. and they're trying to last for as long as possible. They're supposed to be, let's say they drop 10 people in a remote location. They're all in different areas. They're not, the 10 people are not together. They're alone, and they drop them in remote locations, but they're all sporadically in the same-ish type location, but just, you know, let's say 5 miles apart from each other. And again, they have to survive. They have to build shelter. They have to procure food. They have more items to survive, but that's because these people are out there for months and months and months and months. And the idea is to stay out there and be the last one standing, to be the last one that's out there. But the difference is they're totally alone. There's not even a camera crew. Like Naked and Afraid, there's a camera crew there. There's somebody there all the time watching you, right? So if something happens, you get hurt, whatever, there's a medic crew there that's right there. You know, they're camping just a little ways away from you. And so there's people there all around you. You know, if you go out by yourself to go get food, there's a camera person on you. So if you slip, fall, something happens, there's a camera person there that can intervene. Alone, there is no. They get a box full of their camera gear. They get taught how to use it before they go. And all the filming is them filming themselves. And so you're truly, truly alone. And that's psychologically hardcore. And so you learn how psychologically hardcore it is to be truly alone, with nobody, with no family, with no friends, and with no strangers, with no help to survive. You know, those chores of getting firewood and trying to get food and trying to set traps and trying to get your water, but then have time to go fishing, and then all these things, and then working on your shelter. Like, that's a lot of stuff. And that's a lot of stuff you're doing by yourself with no intake possibly of calories. And so the importance of how hard that is. That's important, knowing that later, if we have no food and we're rationing food, or we get to a point where there's not that much food and we have to really work to get it, how hard it's going to be and how draining it's going to be. And it's not going to be like right now where you're sitting here with all this energy and like, I could hunt, I could fish, all this stuff. But if you're not getting that food and you're not getting that, you're super, super weak, and you start to decline right away. And so there's something to be learned from that. Obviously, just the survival things too that you learn. These people on the show are top notch. They are all survivalists. They're not just anybody's, right? And they're building log cabins out there by themselves, right, to live in. I mean, it's amazing. You see them build beautiful, you know, places for their fireplace. You see them catching in different ways that they're catching or trapping food. I mean, you learn a lot of stuff, but you learn strife, and you learn that it's not easy, and you learn that the dynamic of being alone is hardcore. Number 3, this is going to be some controversy, I believe. Doomsday Prepper, the show Doomsday Preppers, was a show that came out many, many, many years ago, and it got a bad rap because it was a show that did cover a lot of like kooky type preppers, right? A lot of tunnel vision. I'm prepping for an asteroid to hit the earth, and this is what we're doing, right? And so a lot of them were tunnel vision on why they were prepping. A lot of them were concentrating on certain areas, but left out a ton of different areas, right? And the show graded them, this fun kind of grading. And it was crazy how many of them, let's say, had a tunnel vision. Hey, I'm preparing for this, right? Let's just say I'm preparing for nuclear war, and they had biosuits, they had gas masks, they had the bunker, they had all this stuff, but they didn't really have that much food, or they didn't really have that much water. And you're like, you know, you guys aren't surviving without food and water. Like, you have all this fancy stuff to like survive, but like you don't have that much food or water. Like, wouldn't even have enough for 30 days. So it's like, what are you really trying to do, right? And a lot of them were like that with the food, water, meds, you guys. Like those 3 weren't a priority, and you're like, the whole show is focusing on how you're a prepper and you're preparing. But it's bad. It's bad for if you're watching it, trying to learn how to prepare and the things that are important and whatever. That aspect is bad because it put a bad light on, hey, you concentrate on one thing. And so, hey, I'm going to pick one thing out of the show, and and how I feel, and I'm going to concentrate on that. And that's not really the way to go about it. The name of the game is self-sufficiency. How do you build yourself up to be able to do many things on your own without the assistance, and to stockpile certain things that are the priority things that you need. You need to have a shelter over your head. You need to have food and water. You have to have those things. You have to have medicines to be able to take care of yourself medically, right? You have to be able to, like, some of these guys were crazy where like their whole preparedness was all weapons, let's say, for example, and they had 50 cows, and they had made, you know, You know, they had all the weapons, they had knives, they had assault weapons, they had all this stuff, and they practiced hardcore. Their whole show was them showing them doing tactical movements and patrolling, and how they had locked down their property, and how they you know, patrol it and watch, and how they plan to deal with the enemy, and maybe they had, you know, traps, and they had different things, right? And you're like, whoa, this is top notch. And it's not that that stuff doesn't have a place, right? That type of stuff definitely has a place, you guys. But the fact was that that person was only concentrating on that one area. And again, it was the same family that it barely had food and water. And so you're kind of like, what is going on, right? You can protect it, but what are you even protecting at the end of the day if you haven't prepared, you haven't stockpiled? I know I see zero self-sufficiency stuff on the property as far as raising animals, growing food, whatever, right? There's nothing there. It's just this family that, you know, is preparing for, I guess, civil unrest or the government to come. They're preparing for Waco, I guess, and that's all that they were preparing. So I say all that because there's still stuff to learn. I watched that show, and there were certain things that people did, or there were certain things that people showed. I remember that show was the first time that I was like, I saw this really cool chicken coop on one of the episodes, and I remember that was the first time I was like, oh, I want that. I love that. I love that. And I remember I had found the chicken coop online. I had like printed out a picture of it so I could get it one day. This was like way earlier in my career. Like ain't nobody was getting a chicken coop at the time, right? But I remember watching the show and seeing this chicken coop and being like, this is my thing. I need this chicken coop. I love this. And there was other things. People would have, let's say they would bring out a tool, or they would bring out something they were doing, or a project they were building, or something they were doing. And I'd be like, oh, that's cool, right? And I would write it down. And so just like you watch videos like this, or you watch another video to get ideas, to write your notes, the same thing goes for Doomsday Preppers. You just have to take it with a grain of salt and realize that some of them are a little kooky. Some of them definitely are tunnel vision and not really the type of prepper you should be taking advice from. So don't get attached to that, but watch it, because there's all types of little things that you can glean from it. Oh, they got that. I need that, right? Let's say it's a family that's preparing for nuclear war. Yeah, they're tunnel visioned and that's all they're doing, but you might learn about gear and different stuff that you haven't thought about in that area that you can now fortify that area for you. Okay. And so that's what I mean by there's stuff to be learned. Okay. Number 4, I've mentioned this before in a video. I might've done a specific video on this, and it's a show called While the Rest of Us Die. I watched it on Vice. I don't know if there's other channels that you can watch it on, but While the Rest of Us Die is an episode type shows where each episode goes through different events that have happened to us in our country and the world. And it kind of just shows you like the things that have happened and the probability of things happening in the future, and the reality that the government will not be there to save you. That they will leave the people, they will go underground, they will go wherever it is that they're going to go to be safe from danger, from the threat, from whatever is happening. And they will leave us, and it will be like while the rest of us die, right? And it goes through different things. It goes through valid things that have happened to us as a country, but then it goes into like some future stuff too. So it's an awesome show, but it really makes you understand that like you really are going to be by yourself. And it's important that we are preparing for doing things on your own, self-sufficiency, making sure that it is okay that there's no 911. It's okay that the world is going left, and everybody that is any kind of government or anybody that you ever thought was going to come and help you is not going to be there. The elites, the famous, the people with money, they're going to scatter to the winds. And whether that's to an underground bunker, to the super duper wealthy that have bunkers and they're going to go to those, or it's going to be they scurry to the mountains, or they scurry to their retreats, or they scurry wherever they go, right? They take their jets to different places. It doesn't matter. My point is that we are going to be left alone and have to survive. And it is going to be hardcore because it's going to be dog eat dog world. There's nobody that's going to have you. Number 5 thing I have is Contagion. Now, there's 1,001 videos or movies that you can watch that have to do with pandemics and all that stuff, outbreaks, different things, plagues, There's a ton of them. But Contagion's a good one. It's just an old school one. There's a ton of different shows that you could watch. I've probably watched all of them, okay? But there's some Natural Geographic shows about different things, smallpox and anthrax and different outbreaks, excuse me. And there's something to be learned from all of those things. As you know, with COVID, it's very, the world knows now in a recent setting that, hey, a pandemic can happen. This is kind of what happens. But we still have yet in a recent event to go through something that has such a very, very high death rate. And the minute that happens, it's even all these people that have gone through this recently are not going to even know what to do, and they're going to lose their minds. You had COVID, and there was people that were like trying to leave the country, that were like, we're out of here. We're not staying in America. I mean, hello, it was everywhere, but they were like, we're leaving. We're going to some third world country. We're not staying here. There's too many people here. And they were ready to leave the country, you guys, because of COVID. Imagine something like Black Plague, taking out people, death rates, high death rates. Can't go anywhere. Like, you can't go do anything, because the minute you do, you're dead. Like, don't go that way, you're dead, right? Hardcore. Okay, so Contagion, again, you could pick 1,000 movies, but it's the one that stood out to me. It's just a way of seeing how fast things work, how fast things move, and that's important. That's important because people, even with COVID, I don't think really understood how fast things can move, right? And I'm not, screw CDC and what they were saying, and masks, not masks, and staying away and all this. If you have something like this that's going around, nobody and their mother needs to tell you to stay put and stay away from people. And there's no social distancing. We're not around people because people are dying all around us. Like, you're not going to have to tell people to stay away from each other or stay home or don't go somewhere or whatever. There's not going to be any kind of political blah, blah, blah. People are dying, right? And so the biggest problem is going to be, you need to stay home. There's not going to be, hospitals are going to be overran. It's going to be rampant. You're going to have walk-offs, people that don't want to do their jobs anymore, or a high death rate of like healthcare workers. I mean, it's going to be crazy. Okay. So nobody's going to have to tell you, but if you don't watch something to really see how fast things move, and you're not able to get ahead of stuff, you're going to have to deal with that in a bad way, in the not good way. Okay. Number 6 thing I have is American Blackout. I did a video on this just a few months ago about, hey, you must watch this show, American Blackout. It's a must. I believe it's on Rumble, if I'm not mistaken. And it just shows a blackout, and the blackout didn't even last that long, but everything goes left. It's chaotic. It's violence. You see the stupidity. You see the amount of people that don't understand, how aren't ready, don't have anything, have no food, no water, don't know how to survive, not even thinking, okay, this is what we need to do next. Nothing, just total panic. And the problem with that is that the majority is going to panic, and that's very, very bad for people like you and me. Okay, so very, very good show to watch. And then the last one I have, this again might be not controversial, but you might be like, why is that on the list? This show's called Homestead Rescue. It has nothing to do with preparedness, preppers, prepping, stockpiling, none of that stuff. But it has everything to do with homesteads, self-sufficiency, having water supply, having, having the ability to grow your own food, being able to raise animals, being able to live off the land, utilize and do the things you want to do on your land. And it's just about this family that comes in and like rescues homesteads, people who are not making it, like people ridiculous that like some of them have no structure, have nowhere to live. Some of them just have really bad stuff that's happening on the property and they don't know how to mitigate it. Maybe it's flooding, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. People on properties, homestead, no water, never had water, hauling in water trucks, thousands of dollars they're spending on like water. And it's just like, they just need to figure out the water system, doing a well, doing a hand well, doing a drilled well, doing whatever, finding catchments on their land, of running water that they can get water that way. So just all these homesteads that are failing, this family comes in and helps them. But you learn so much about homesteading and the basics, because this family comes in and shows these people how to be self-sufficient, fixes their problems, fixes the problem with water, fixes the problem with their gardens, fixes the problem with their animals and pins and how to take care of them. Also goes additionally to survival of hunting and how to secure animals and how to protect against predators, you know, that come in and try to get their animals. They do a lot of that with hunting and learning how to hunt and learning their land and what animals are around them and all this stuff. And so it's just very, very cool because you get to see them help fix somebody's problem, but you get to see and you learn all these, I mean, inventive ways, because they go into these places where these people have tried things maybe and it just didn't work, or your typical things wouldn't work, right? And they come in with all these super inventive ideas. I mean, just the gardening alone, inventive ideas of how to garden somewhere on a cliff, right? How to garden where there's no dirt, you know, how to garden where this and that, right? And so they're very, very inventive. The dad is cool, right? He's really kooky, and he comes in and does just amazing things, you know, superhero things. It's just a really awesome show if you're into homesteading, if you're into self-sufficiency, if you're into just kind of learning some different things, that could be very, very helpful to you in the future, right? Ways to, tricks and tips to do things. I mean, they're an amazing family. It's an amazing show. Several episodes, and the Rainies is the name of the family. It's a good show to watch, okay? And I don't think I've ever mentioned that show on this channel. So hopefully those 7 things, you guys got something out of that. Maybe a new show to watch, new movie to watch. Get caught up on some stuff. It's the same thing with books. Read your books, read certain fiction books, because they go through situations, they go through things that teach you stuff and you can learn stuff. And sometimes even if the overall thing is kind of wonky, like Doomsday Preppers is kind of wonky, but there is a wealth of knowledge still in there to get out of, okay? So just find it. Has several episodes, several seasons, and just watch it episode by episode. And there might be some episodes you don't get anything out of, but I would venture that most of the episodes you can get at least one thing out of, okay? So I hope you guys enjoy that, and bear with me with all these videos that are probably going to have me looking the same this next week with family. So I will be out. I probably will not be checking comments that much next week either, just so you guys are aware. And since this video is for Friday, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Get the things done, be protective, do things with your family, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.